Hey guys, making another video today. Haven't made one in maybe like 2 weeks or something like that. I don't know, I just for a little bit didn't really have the urge or desire to really make a video, I guess. I continue writing down ideas for videos. Like every so often I'll get an idea and write it down in my notes I have in my phone. And I have a pretty decently long list too. I don't know, I just didn't really feel like making a video till now, I suppose. The one I want to talk about today, or the topic I want to talk about today, is Mark 4. The topic I want to talk about is the parable of the seeds. I want to talk about specifically the seeds that are scattered among the thorns, when Jesus says that these are the seeds that are given basically the word, or God, know God, something along those lines. But the desires of this world choke them and stop them from bearing any crop, basically. As he said, the ones that did end up thriving would produce like 100 crop or whatever, something like that, as an example. One of the things that made me want to talk about this one was struggles that I've had personally, as well as seeing a bunch of other Christian YouTube content, I suppose. One of them I saw was, talking about one of the things you see a lot of the time from older guys is they will say, get right with God when you're younger. Stop messing around with that girl, stop putting me off, stop putting him off in favor of your career or family or, I don't know, hobby or whatever, and lock in with God. I know as a young person in America, this can feel very difficult at times. When I was a young person, I'm still young, I shouldn't say I'm like old, but when I was a teenager, I didn't really know God like that, and I was just someone who said they believed because my family went to church or something like that. All I was concerned with in high school was hanging out with my friends, looking good, trying to get good enough grades to get into college, I suppose, in the later half of high school. Girls and stuff like that. Sorry, I'm doing that. There's a gnat or something around me. I didn't really care about God or anything like that. I would pray, like everyone else who's a cultural Christian does. Excuse me. Where they pray every so often for like, God, I'm struggling. I need your help. And then they don't pray to him again for like 8 months or something like that, That was basically what I was. And it's hard for me to say this to like teenagers too, because I know as a teenager myself, I was stupid. I don't expect a teenager to just be some super smart person, super mature, willing to look past all the things going on around them to, lock in with God. But I suppose what I can say is more geared towards people my age, early 20s, out of college, close to out of college or fresh out of college kind of age, stuff like that. Because I'll be honest, I'm not a father. I don't have teenage children. I don't really know what it's exactly to live like a teenager that is not myself, I guess, or my brother or something. So I can't really say how to educate them basically on walking in with God. That's something I would say you should look elsewhere for, because I really wouldn't know the best way to talk to them about looking past what's going on with them. Because I could just give a surface level, talk about, grades aren't so important, lock in with God, or friends aren't so important, sports aren't so important, lock in with God. And it's like, yeah, that's true, but that surface level, talk just seems like it wouldn't really carry much weight. So I would say to look elsewhere if you're a teenager. But for men my age, which I know many of you are trying to lock in your careers, a lot of you are trying to find a woman, a good woman. A lot of you are trying to figure out life in general. And it's not for a lot of you, it's not very easy right now. I just want to say, what's the best thing to start off with? I guess the best thing to start off with is women. I myself have never had a woman before in my life. That's right. I've never had, like sorry, had a brain fart. I was about to say I never had a 24-year-old. I am a 24-year-old. I'm trying to say as a 24-year-old. I've never had a girlfriend before. And, I'll be honest, it's probably, one of the hardest things I've ever had to deal with in my life. Not having a woman by your side. I'm honestly thankful to God for that. Because it's given a lot of perspective. It's made me realize just how pointless and useless a bunch of lust and sleeping with someone before marriage is. The idea of, just going and sleeping with a woman, I know is not going to help me in any way, shape, or form, so I just don't go to try and even do that. I know for a lot of guys who have had women before, it's not going to be, their perspective isn't going to be the same, or it's just so easy for them to not have a woman, For me, it's, I've gotten accustomed to being alone, I suppose. Not in a sad way, but I'm thankful for it in a way, because as I think I've said in my videos before that, you need to know how to use alone time and be willing to make alone time so that you can be with God. Because if you're so focused on having a woman or being with a woman, you're not going to give time to God. And if you do that, there's a very, very large chance that he's probably not going to give you a good relationship with a woman. Not until you turn around and fix your relationship with him first. So as a man who's had to do quite a bit of fixing in the past, is it 8 months, 9 months, something like that? I would just give a suggestion to any guy out there. If you're single, fix yourself with God first. then you'll be ready for a relationship. You're not gonna have a good time with it if you don't. Because if you don't, it's just gonna be, sleeping with her. You're not gonna care about her as a person. When things get rocky, it's gonna fall apart. And every relationship gets rocky at some point because there's always some sort of friction at some point in time. It's just gonna fall apart. And unfortunately, some of them get rocky, but it stays together because the both of you only care about having sex with one another, so you just can't feel separate. And a relationship like that is just going to lead to divorce when you get married, more than likely, because all you ever cared about was that person's body and how they satisfied you. I don't say that lightly. I don't say that as a joke or as a haha got you moment. That's just probably what it's going to lead to. That's probably one of the biggest reasons for divorce in America. I know there's many reasons, don't get me wrong, but I feel like one of the biggest reasons is definitely just caring about having sexual desires met. And then once you realize it's too late and that you really didn't care about the person you're next to, divorce happens. So just try to lock in with God first. Pray about a relationship. If you're in a relationship, pray about it. Try to give it up to God so you prioritize Him first, and so you can learn and know from the Spirit what He wants you to do in that relationship. Second thing is careers. I cannot maybe not. Okay. The best way to start this off is, I know through a lot of social media content, both on YouTube and other things like TikTok or Facebook or Instagram and whatnot, a lot of young men, just want to chase having a lot of money. You're just gonna chase after a job that gets you the most money, so you can just live a fancy, hassle-free life. And I just wish so many more young men realize that having a bunch of money isn't happiness. It never was, it never will be. You can see as many hundreds of videos on Instagram and TikTok of guys showing off their sports cars that are well over like 6 figures. It's like they are seem happy and cool and awesome, but do you think those people at the end of the night, when they're on their own in their room, are happy? They're alone. All their friends have gone home to their own places. It's just them alone in the dark in their room. Do you think that person feels 100% content with what's going on? Or do you think they're going to lie to themselves and think, yeah, I have a super rich life, I am happy, and try to forget about it? I just don't want you guys to become like that. And it's going to, at some point, happen to basically every one of you that chase after a career because of its money. And a large part of that reason is God will let it happen to you. He sees that you just care about money. You don't care about putting to use what gifts He gave you. So He's going to let you go down that path. Let you realize just how, what's the best way to put it? realize how unfruitful and just sad, how unfruitful and sad it is. It's not going to bring you real happiness. It's not going to help you emotionally or with whatever you're dealing with inside. You can lie to yourself and say that it does, but you know that it doesn't. So, just when you start a career, I just hope that first you went to college for something you actually are good at or care about or something like that. Not just went to law school or doctor school because they make a lot of money. Because if you're genuinely not passionate about those big jobs, you're just gonna be miserable. You're gonna try to probably push yourself through school thinking, oh, it's just all the hard work, it just sucks. But when I get to the job itself, it's gonna be awesome and I'm gonna have a ton of money. It's gonna be cool, but it's not. If you cannot get through all the hard work through college or whatever kind of school you go to for that stuff, you're probably not gonna like the job. It's the same with every other degree. It's not just, the big paying ones. If you don't like the work involved with the degree and classes you're having towards the degree, you're not going to like a career in it. So once you get to a career, just take what comes to you. Don't be constantly searching for ways to switch to a different company because you might be able to get like $10,000 more. Increases in money will not bring you happiness. I myself, I don't make a ton of money, but I make enough to where I'm happy. I have this apartment to myself. I have AC, Wi-Fi, water, whatever you want to call it, heating, and it's, a lot more than a lot of people in the world have. A lot of people in the world don't have a place to themselves, AC, Wi-Fi, or some sort of water heating, or clean water to begin with. So it's not so much about comparing yourself to someone who has less than you. It's just learning to be content with what God has given you, basically. Because you shouldn't just look at someone else's situation like, look at how little they have compared to me. I'm just a terrible person for having normal stuff. That's not something you should look at it. You shouldn't look at it like that. But, yeah. Job and women, probably the biggest two for men my age. What else is there? There's friendships, there's health. I guess the next biggest one I would go into is health. For me, how long ago was it? Let's see, 2024, maybe like a year and a half ago, 2 or so, something like that. I was, about like 228, almost 230 pounds. And right now, after a long time of physical therapy for a leg injury and finally learning to eat better, I'm at like 194. So that's, can't do math in my head right now, like 34 pounds down or something like that. And that's like, that's great and all. And I thank God for allowing me to come this far, but I'm still not done. I gotta get, well, I say I gotta, but I should be down to, around 170 or so, something like that is where I actually should be, according to like my age and my height. And I've come to a point, where I'm not so rushy about it. In the beginning, I definitely was, to the point where I was definitely obsessed with it, with losing weight. And then once you get into that routine of being obsessed with losing weight, it's not just about losing weight, it's about how you look with your face, with your hair. I'll admit that I myself, before this video even started, I was messing with my hair because I thought it looked bad in front of the camera. Yeah, your face, your hair, skin, tanning, whatever you want to say is involved with just looking better, looking more attractive to other people. And that is a huge one. Especially for guys who are like starting to lose weight, or instead of starting to lose weight, or starting to gain weight through, muscle training. It's going to be one of the biggest ways that the enemy is going to attack you, is getting you to obsess over your physical looks instead of, caring about your relationship with God. He's gonna try and get you to care only about your physical looks. How should I say? To the point where you're starving yourself, spending hundreds of dollars on looking better every month, just doing stuff you really just shouldn't be doing. And if you're, going through that process, it's going to probably be like the number one way the enemy is going to attack you, is tempting you with, obsessing over how you look. I know I've fallen for it myself, especially when I was younger in high school and lost a bunch of weight. Back then I was, going on a run every day, starving myself basically as well. I don't remember much about other than that, but I do remember starving myself. I can't remember. Like I said, I can't remember much else about it, but I do know that I was obsessed with it. Didn't really care about anything else. I would do stuff like entertainment when I was back in my room after it all, like playing games or watching YouTube or something, but I couldn't get it out of my head that I just need to lose weight, you're so ugly, you need to look better, lose weight. And it's just poison. It is complete crap. You just need to be willing to take your time with it. Don't let it get into your head so much. Don't go into rants and ramblings in your head about how things would be if you were better looking. Just do it the healthy way and take your time with it. At this point, like I said, I'm 194. I'm supposed to be like 170. But I'm good with taking it at a healthy pace, which is like 1 to 2 pounds a week or something like that. I can't remember. Honestly, on an average week for me, it's probably just 1 pound a week that I lose. Because I just do the average thing that most people do, where you just take the calorie and maintain number and take minus 500, and if you do that every day, it's like minus 1 pound a week. That's about what I do. And I'm good with that. You know, I will say I struggle with it. I won't say I sit here and don't struggle with not obsessing over it. I definitely did earlier today when I was on a walk, just imagining myself what I would be like if I was fit and at the current moment or moments in the past. I was definitely obsessing over it. But it's important that, you know, you realize it at least after a moment, if not in the moment, that this is not what's important. It's good to be physically healthy, but what's most important is the relationship with God. There's a chance that through your physical activity, whether it's running outside or going to the gym or being in some club or group, God's putting you there. Could be that he wants you to talk to or become friends with a certain person. Who knows? And what was the other thing I said? Friends, which is the last thing I'll talk about. Like I said before, and I can't remember the name of the video in which I said it, but I've said it multiple times, I believe anyway, that I don't have any friends myself at this point. Of course, you have like acquaintances that would recognize you and stuff like that, but like actual friends, I don't have. You know, it's the same for me in my head. It's kind of the same thing with women, where it's like not entirely the same thing, but one of the things I connect those two is that because I don't have either at the current moment, it lets me realize how in the past when I had friends that I kind of let them dominate all my time, basically. Didn't really care about much else other than like video games. But definitely in my head and literally and physically, I would just let it all get to me. You know, the friends, hanging out with people, fear of missing out, everything involved with a friend group. I let get to me way too much, to the point where I definitely wasn't spending any time with God. Same thing with a woman, where I said earlier, you need to learn how to be alone. If you have friends, that's great. I'm not saying that you should just leave all your friends. I'm saying you need to learn how to have that friendship or ships, but also have alone time with God. That might look like a devotional in the morning or at night or at midday, whatever time. If you have a job, looks like maybe just reading a little bit of the word in the morning and praying. You know, when you come home after work or wherever it is you're at, if you're at home, taking yourself to basically a quiet place in another room. I would say not to do it in the room you work at. If you can, is just reading the word and praying. And I myself am not someone who's really done devotionals, really, so I can't really say much about that. A lot of people do like it. I think they do have good, valuable lessons in there, and I would recommend it. I myself don't really feel a urge to get one of those at the current time. Nothing against them. I just don't feel it. I guess I'm trying to say in the spirit guiding me to have one currently. Right now I'm currently reading again through the for the Gospels. Right now I'm nearly at the end of John. But it's just important to take time before everything else happens, and maybe again after everything else happens, giving time to God. It doesn't have to be you sit there for 2 hours just sitting there in silence like this, but just putting Him before everything, regardless, is what's important. And I know it can be very easy to just kind of let it slip out of practice, because your friends are like calling you up like, hey, where are you at? Let's go. And then the next day it's, oh man, I'm so hungry. I'm gonna go get something to eat like right now. Whether if it's like after work or something like that. And then after you eat, your friends are calling you up like, hey, let's go do this. You're like, oh, okay. You know, there's gonna be a lot of things that try to interrupt that time, to be honest. So I think it's very important to, I guess I would say, make it at a time when it's less likely to be interrupted. So one of the reasons, as I said, was first thing, one thing you can do is create the time in the morning. You can get up earlier, I myself am guilty of not doing that. When I get up in the morning or when I wake up, I do a prayer. And then, sign on to work. Sometimes I just go back to sleep, to be honest. Let's see. I'd say around 11 or 12, I read the Word just on my phone. Lots of times lately I've just been reading on my phone instead of from the actual book. Just kind of scroll through on the phone lots of times when I'm on the clock, and then pray, random times throughout the day. If I just think of something, just pray about it. Then after work, I pray, thanking Him for the day, that work went well, and that I asked Him to be with me as I go to the gym. And then later on, after I go to the gym, come back, shower, eat. After I eat, I sit down on this couch that my phone is on right now, and I pray then again as well. Read a little bit then too. It's just a bunch of little things throughout the day. It doesn't have to be some humongous 3-hour devotional right in the morning. It's just keeping it steady throughout the day, I think, is what's more important. As I know some of you will remember the verse where Paul talks about, he calls us to pray, what's the word that's used? Ceasingly, or I can't remember entirely what the word is used, but it's basically to not stop praying throughout the day, basically. So I think it's more important to do something like that than to just try and set certain times on things. And that'll definitely help with getting a word in with God when a lot of things are hectic in the world. I guess there's a lot of rambling in this one, but I hope all of you, or if anyone even sees this, has a good day.